Hello and welcome to a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and welcome back to a brand new episode. This week, I'm back from my trip, and it's going to be all about Japan. Traveling across this beautiful landscape for 2 weeks. I've come back, and I've got a hell of a lot to tell you guys. Seriously.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Listener, viewer, this is for you. If you are even slightly interested in traveling Japan, into just learning about the whole process of going through planning, getting to and from places, understanding the landscape that is Japan, and learning about new cultures, and learning about the experience that myself and my little sister went through over this 2-week extravagant dream of a trip to this beautiful place that we call Nihon or Japan, the land of the rising sun.
I see. You're a man of culture as well.
Japan for me has always been a destination I've always wanted to go to, ever since I was probably around 16, 17 years old, discovering it through, of course, anime, but also through just general interest in traveling to places at a young age. Japan has always been on my list of places to go, and it was only 5 years ago when I agreed to going alongside my little sister to this place, and I thought it was a destination to travel with someone else for the first time ever for me personally. I've always travelled solo, so this was a really interesting trip to travel along someone else. And I would actually say Japan is probably the best country for a beginner traveller. I think it is bulletproof in terms of getting to places, people being able to comprehend you even though they don't speak English, being able to get to and from places on your own, being able to book hostels, hotels, being able to get fantastic food no matter where you are, seeing insane views. It's got everything. Now, here's the only downside, and I think this is something that you, the listener, the viewer, should know straight off the bat, is that you're thinking most likely of traveling to the main hubs. Those main hubs are the places that I visited. It's going to be Tokyo, it's going to be Osaka, it's going to be Kyoto, it's going to be Nara, it's going to be Hiroshima, and it's going to be the mini towns in between these places. For instance, where we went to Hakone, we went to Kamakura, we went to just little Nara as well. So this is for you, the listener and the viewer, who's interested in these destinations. You will find that there is a lot of cityscape, and you'll be wondering to yourself, where's the real natural Japan? And it is there for you. You have to just go find it.
You don't say. You don't say. You don't say.
If you just stick to the tourist road, you know, if you just follow what everything's on Instagram, or if you follow everything that's online, you will just get stuck in the cityscape, I would say. You will see some amazing shrines, don't get me wrong. You will see some amazing landscapes from atop many buildings, but in order to get out into the countryside, the only downside is that you're either going to have to take a long journey via train, or you're going to have to rent out a car. So, disclaimer right there within the first few minutes of the podcast. And I think that's a really good one for those who are thinking to themselves, well, I want to see the rural Japan. I want to see the Japan of those beautiful sort of rice fields, paddy fields, and the old school Japan. And you will see it, don't get me wrong. If you are travelling to any of those locations, I would actually say out of all of the places I've just mentioned so far, Hakone is your real lock onto it. That is a place you want to go. That is an amazing destination. It's probably my favourite destination so far out of all the places I went to in Japan, because it was a mixture of mountains, forest, nature, being able to see a lake for the first time in Japan. It was just this beautiful Lake Ashi that we stayed at, and just a relaxing region amongst all of the steps and all of the travelling that you're going to do throughout Japan. Is a fantastic place for you to go stop over, and for you to, take a break and just be like, oh God, thank goodness. Because something that you will notice and you will see is all of the stuff you're going to want to get done within 2 weeks. Is 2 weeks enough, you may be asking? Just about. It is going to be crammed full. So if you're thinking you want a relaxing holiday, Japan is not going to be for you. Number one, it's definitely not going to be for you. Number two, it's also going to be a destination of constantly seeing new places, so you will never get bored. So there's a plus there really for you. You're never going to be bored in Japan. There's always going to be something more to see. There's always going to be a shrine. There's always going to be a store you want to visit, a place you want to see, a hilltop you want to watch the world from, a park you want to visit, a castle ruins to see. You know, there's so many places. Even in Tokyo itself, we spent 2 days at the beginning of the trip and another 2 days at the end of the trip, and we still had more places to visit at the end of it. Now, I think one of my favourite things, even though we still had those objectives to fulfill, is that we went our own way a couple of times. We took the unknown path where there was no tourist attraction at the end of it. It was just, should we walk this way? Should we go to see down this path? Should we go down this alleyway? Should we go find this beautiful little nature reserve that's been built within the city? Should we go see what that shrine is? Should we go see the local 7-Eleven and choose out our breakfast and our morning coffee? I mean, nobody on the internet is talking about how it's 200 yen, which 1,000 yen is, I believe it's £5, right? Which is insane to have. Like a pound, you know, we're talking about here 1/5 of, you know, £5 to a pound for a coffee, you know.
2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
Crazy. A pound for a coffee in the morning. Like, normally I'm paying 3 times that amount. Now, granted, I know three quid a day, you know, for coffee. You may be saying, Chris, don't be so bloody greedy. But for me, it's the little things like that. When I'm waking up in the morning, I've got a couple of spare 100 yen in my pocket, a couple of 200, you know, a couple of yen, and then I just, boom, go in and, you know, spend a pound on a extremely tasty Americano, if I do say so. You know, 7-Eleven is one of the most you know, maybe it's overrated, underrated. I think it's incredible what they have in Japan. The fact that 24 hours a day, every day, you have this shop that's run by amazing people where you can use both credit card and cash, and you don't even have to necessarily interact with the teller apart from asking for a bag or getting specific change where they give you the change. But mainly the change comes out of the machine because you're interacting with the screen. And we discovered this on our first day. We went in, I was a little bit jet lagged, I was tired. I was like Red Bull and some cold coffee, basically, you know, doubling up on the caffeine to be able to get me through the day. And it was just like, bam, 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 we're done, out of it. And all of that anxiety, all of that nervousness of you going to a new country and thinking, oh God, I don't speak any of the language. I've got minimal words. I've got please, thank you. I've got hello, how are you doing? Like, where's the local train station? Like, all of these, like, basically useless things that you get taught on Duolingo. That bloody bird.
Looks like you missed your Spanish lesson today. You know what happens now. Now beg for your life in Spanish. What's that? You are crying. Come on, don't cry. Just one more lesson until you can see your family again.
You know, but at the end of the day, you know, the little Japanese that I did know, it worked. You know, you didn't really need to, and people spoke English there. And of course, at the end of the day, what have you got? It's called Google Translate. Use it. It's an incredible tool created by Google that we all have on our phones, and it's always available. And all you have to do is press that download button on the Japanese language, and you're set. You don't even need a Wi-Fi connection, for God's sake. Now, granted, this is the trip where, for the first time ever, I bought a Wi-Fi box. We paid 75 quid for 2 weeks for unlimited data across Japan. It was flawless because all they give you is a mobile phone. It's a mobile phone with an operating system that is just for Wi-Fi. So it's just a Wi-Fi hotspot for you to use the entire time. Genius. So you charge it like a phone. The only thing that's on it though is just the hotspot. So you just turn it on and off. Sorted. And then you don't have to worry about, like, what I normally do is where I go into a Starbucks and load up the local Google Maps to be able to get to and from the hostel, or to get to the hotel, or to get to the next location. and you don't have to worry about it, skipping out, or you missing the train and not being able to update it. All of these little things get removed. So I would recommend it if you want to remove and relax it just a little bit more. I'm going to be using it from now on. It's something I learned from this trip, is like Wi-Fi boxes. Just get them, like a SIM card, basically. It just saves you so much time and effort, and makes you relax a hell of a lot longer when you're thinking about getting to your next destination. Because we were hitting so many places over the 2-week period that it would have been stupid to just be relying on public Wi-Fi. Now, granted, Japan has amazing public Wi-Fi. There's plenty of boxes out there, but you don't want to just solely rely on that, especially when you have so much to get done. For instance, within Tokyo, you've got Sensoji, you've got a couple of places where we went to. For instance, I went to the Garden of Words garden. Which is just incredible. It's actually even more beautiful in real life. It's, the animation does it justice. The beautiful, sort of skyscrapers in the background, and the garden there and its peace and its beauty, and also being able to go see Your Name, the stairway up into from the temple in the movie, which is so cool to see. Obviously, I'm going to be playing the references for all these films throughout this podcast as well. It's just a dream, because you're thinking to yourself, how do films capture this landscape and make it look better and make you go into it? And then you get there and it's like, this shouldn't be real. But it is. It's like when I went to New Zealand, I was like, this is Lord of the Rings. I'm in Middle Earth. This is incredible. And it's, the thing is that some people say, reality's a hard hitter, everything has to be a downer. But when you realise your dreams like this, and you have this amazing chance to let the people around the world know that their dreams can come true, it makes you so happy. It makes you feel alive. It makes this come back to life. And I'm pointing to my brain for those who are just listening, because that's what happened to me. I was mentally exhausted before I went on this trip, and I've come back and I am wired. I am ready to rock and roll, because there's nothing that's going to reset you more than achieving something out of your life and discovering a new place, and wired to go to and from, and eating just random Japanese food every single day. One of my highlights was being in Hiroshima and going into a purely Japanese restaurant. We were the only foreigners in there, and the owner was cooking, and he cooked us a meal, and I had the beef curry. Incredible. Just even my sister, who's vegetarian, had a few scoops. It was just like, oh my god, it's amazing. And then there was the very notorious pancakes, savoury pancakes that are cooked, and he made them there up in noodles and the cabbage, and that was incredible, and I wasn't even expecting to like it. That says everything you need to know. You're going in thinking, no, it won't be very good, I don't want that, it doesn't look great, and then you try some, and you're like, dear Lord, this is it. This is home cooking galore. And I was like, it's as if, it's something where you can taste as if there's heritage there, there's beauty there, and it's just like there's an art. People like that. This is what breaks my heart a little bit, and I saw this recently in Jujutsu Kaisen, where Nanami says, "Why is this? If I disappear, it won't matter, because I'm doing a numbers game." He played as his job was in the finance district. But then he said to the baker girl, the girl at the bakery, if you disappeared, all of your customers would be upset and they would miss you.
Essentially, my job is to take money from wealthy people and use it to make those people even more wealthy. That's pretty much all it is. Frankly, no one would even mind if I were to just vanish. But people who wanted bread would definitely mind if their bakery was gone. Yet for some reason, my job, which exists completely outside of the natural human cycle, pays better money. When you think about it logically, it really doesn't make any sense at all.
And this is what and yet the horrible the horrible thing of reality is that he got paid a lot more, and this girl who's in the bakery gets paid near pittance. And this is what I'm comparing it to the man in that Japanese, that restaurant. He should be getting paid more than bankers, because he's bringing joy to people's lives by his cooking. And there were regulars there every day who ate there nonchalantly, but he was bringing joy to their life. And this is what kills me. It kills me that people like that have to scrape a living sometimes. And he's got family, and he looked fine. But it's just, there is a part of me that thinks the world's unfair in that case. I compare my job, I'm an IT, and I do think that jobs like that are the real soul to bring joy to people. It's the way of the world. Anyway, back to Japan. Anyway, that was a real highlight. Another highlight that you may or may not want to listen to, you the listener, the viewer. But I loved a public bath. I did it twice. So once at this hotel we stayed at in Hakone, and it was just a beautiful scenic. It had an outdoor area as well, so you had the indoor public bath, and obviously it's sectioned off in male and female, and you go in and you wash yourself off, and then you go into these boiling pools first. They're seriously hot. You've got 3 different types of bath. You've got the hot pool, the medium pool, and the cold pool, and I love all of it. I love the fact that you can switch between them, cool yourself off, then jump back in. And I think the first time I went in the public bath, I think the maximum I could stay in the hot pool was for like a minute. That was it. And I was out, and then I was back in, and then I was out. And then the second time I went around, I was able to into a completely different bath back in Tokyo. It was like 500 yen to get in. Obviously the hotel one was totally free, but this one, the public bath, like proper public bath, was 500 yen to use it. Hot, cold, medium pool, same scenario, except this time it was just up. These were the locals. This wasn't a hotel. This wasn't filled with gaijin. It was filled with just the normal people of the local Tokyo neighborhood. And it's just like, this is it. You're experiencing. And the guy who ran it, he saved me. In my shoes and my Foot Locker literally got stuck, and he made us all look like amateurs. 3 different myself, my sister, and another local Japanese lady who my sister met, tried to open this Foot Locker, and guy comes over nonchalantly, wanders in like Clint Eastwood coming into the bar. He's just like, "This isn't nothing to me, sir." Get out of my way. And he just literally gets his elbow, go bang, 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 open, bang, one shot, boom. And we were all laughing. We were having hysterics, like me and my sister, the local lady, all grinning to each other because this guy just did it so smoothly, like he'd done it 1,000 times. And it was just brilliant. You just look at him and he's just like, yeah, whatever. Not even a word of English. And he smiles. He knows exactly what he's done. And we just like wave goodbye. Arigatou gozaimasu. Like, and you can hear it, the appreciation for people. Now, Japan, on the other side of it, this is where we're interacting with people. And I loved it. I loved every interaction we had with a Japanese person or a person in that country. They were brilliant. They are the friendliest people when you interact with them. Genuinely. I have not a bad thing to say about that country's people or the country itself. The only downside is if you were to live there. Because I can definitely see a level of isolationism. I can see the trains, they're quiet. There's no talking done in the trains. There's very little socializing apart from through work, drinks and meals along those lines. And we all know the corporations within Japan don't give a lot of flexibility like they do in Europe. And it is worse than in the US as well with the culture of working. So it is a kind of not a fun environment to grow up in if you're my age and you're in that industry, because you're working all hours God sends, and everyone who's older than you is your superior and you have to do everything they say. So there is that downside. But as a visitor, this is the problem. It's like, as somebody who's just visiting Japan, you get all the benefits. You get all the fun. You go in, you get out the airport, you go straight to the train station at Hanada, you get yourself a welcome Suica card. You get that Suica card, you fill it up with however much yen you did. We did 5,000, it lasted us ages. I think we did a total, this isn't including the bullet trains, but a total of 15,000 yen. So, 3 different times we filled it up. And we just got you got to remember, that's all around Tokyo, that's all around Osaka, and that's all around Hiroshima, using this one card, and it works everywhere. And you can even use it, and I used up the last of my yen at the airport at Hanada buying snacks in the machine. That's how brilliant the infrastructure is for tourists in Japan. It's genius. It really is. And I think the bullet trains as well, so myself and my sister went in thinking we had to reserve everything. So on our second day in Japan, we reserved all of our trains in the future for all of our bullet trains, which are known as Shinkansen. And on the Shinkansen, you can go to a specific carriage where you've got your seats reserved. Now, it's brilliant. I tell you what, when we did go onto the reserve carriage from Hiroshima to Tokyo, really glad we did, because we can chuck our baggage behind us in this section behind us, which is for reserved seating and for baggage, and then you can just sit, relax, and know that nobody is going to talk to you about your seat. It's not like in the UK where your reserved seat's taken by someone else, and no one's ever rude enough to do that. It's not ever going to have to worry about your seat, losing your seat, or anything along these lines. And for a fact everybody's going to sit in their allocated seat immediately, without fail, and it's going to be quiet. It's going to be great. You're going to have the greatest travel time, and you're going to watch as the amazing Japanese countryside goes past you. I tell you what, that train from Hiroshima to Tokyo, just something else. You're just sat there, and you're like, is this bloody real? Is this bloody real? Is this what I'm seeing right now? It is. And it's just how lucky you can be to see. And I know, it's crazy, man. It really is. It's so crazy to think that we did all that in it's such a short amount of time, and I'm just scratching the surface, for this trip. We then with all of the traveling, as I said, with all of the places we visited, I'm only touching the highlights. So I'm going to continue to talk about the best stuff, and I'm going to try and counteract it with the worst stuff. So one thing I do want to mention, we stayed in mostly hostels, and we stayed in 2 hotels. Now, if I was going to change one thing about this trip, it was going to remove all the hostels and just go with hotels. Now, it's nothing to do with the hostels. The first one, we were a little bit taken aback by it. It was literally just someone's house or business been converted into a hostel. It had like 1 room with hostel beds in, and that was it. And then the other room was for private people. So that there's a little bit, I'm not. It's clearly a little bit of a push on the rules. Then we stayed in our second hostel, which is a proper hostel, and we really liked that one. However, it's just. I started to realise for my sister and for myself as well, I was just a little bit tired of, like, when you're doing this intensive 25,000 steps a day, you're going to see all these places. When you get back, you don't want to have to worry about your sleep being interrupted, and that is the one bad thing, is like people snoring, people, being people, basically, having a few drinks maybe or something along those lines. Now, I've done it for 10 years. I've done hosteling for 10 years. I'm done now. And if I'm going to book a trip from now on, I will be doing hotels, because in the 2 hotels we stayed at, we had such a good time. We had this one in Hakone, which is, I will not name the name on this podcast because you guys aren't getting it. It's now staying in my family. You're never getting it because it's too good.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
It was far too fancy for myself and for my sister, and we were just like, whoa, this is incredible. I can't believe we got a deal on this. Insane. And it was overlooking the Lake Ashi. It had all of the amenities. It had everything you could think of. It had a beautiful French breakfast, set menu, but just like insane. And then the second hotel, it had a buffet. It had a view that overlooked the whole of Hiroshima, and it was in a perfect location. So this is the thing I've realised now, is that I'm just going to shit out the money. And for a lot of people, they may not be able to do so. So this is me coming from a very privileged position. I totally get it. If you're judging me, I totally feel like it's totally fine. You can totally judge me. I'm totally fine with that. But I did hosteling for 10 years.
It's a lot of money. I get it. I can feel you judging me. That's palpable. But hey, I never said I was the hero of this story.
It's time. It's done. I'm 28 now. It's over. I can afford to do the hotels. I was just being cheap. And if I'm honest, I spent a lot less than I thought I was going to do. Because of 7-Eleven, because of all the stuff we did was mainly through the travelling that was expensive. I spent around, I think it was a total, including all of the travelling, all of the hostels, it was around £1,000 for all of the Shinkansen, all of the hostels, and any spending money that was for food as well. So it's just insane. And then you've got your £1,000 flight, and once you've done that, you're looking at £3,000 max. And I spent a lot less than I thought I was going to spend, and so I think I would much rather next time upgrading to hotels and making that decision. There's also the fact that, like I said, we didn't stay long enough in Osaka/Kyoto. So we only stayed in that region for 2 days. I wish we'd knocked a day off Tokyo and knocked a day off Hiroshima and switched it so we could spend more time in Kyoto and Osaka, because it just felt very rushed. We also did like half a day at, I believe it was Universal Studios. Great. It would have been even better if we'd got access to Harry Potter World and the Mario World as well. However, you have to be so early in the day to be able to get access to that, because not only do you have to be in Universal Studios to be able to get tickets to it, you have to be there at like 7 in the morning to be able to get access to it. And it's gone just like that. So by the time you get there at like 8 or 9 o'clock, you're only going to be able to get access to it at like 7 o'clock in the evening, and we weren't willing to come back to Universal Studios just to be able to get access to Mario World. So it's very, there's a little bit of a tip for you if you're planning it. And I realized as well, I wish we hadn't done it. I think I would have much rather spent more time in Kyoto and tried to explore a couple of more places that we didn't get to explore. So there is that. So allocating time to places is very difficult, because when we went to Hiroshima, we went to Miyajima Island, which is my second favourite place. So you got Hakone and then Miyajima Island. It was Destiny Islands, basically. It was like, obviously my main Destiny Islands is in Australia, where my mate Alex lives, and it reminds me so much of it. But there's also this, Miyajima Island just reminds me of why Kingdom Hearts is made by Japanese studios. Like, these islands are just exactly like Destiny Islands. Just this beautiful sandy beach, surrounded by amazing jungle. You go up to the top of it, you can see the cityscape in the horizon with mountains behind it, and you're just like, how is Hiroshima like this amazing massive city, and then it's surrounded by nature everywhere, just surrounded by it, and you can't get, you can't believe it unless you see it. It's really hard to describe, because unless you go there and you see the ocean and you take the ferry over to the island, which is, again, you can use your Suica card to get to and from, which is insane. You think about that, you're using the same card to use a ferry as well. It's just, something else altogether. I think Miyajima Island as well, we saw, little running streams, mountainous regions, walking all around it. And I also think it would have been lovely to be able to stay at a hotel overnight, just to be able to be there, because it's just so scenic. You could have just sat there forever. You had the pagodas, you had the beautiful shrines that were sitting on the water, and also known as the gates. The red gates that you see. The name of them is totally lost on my mind right now, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You see them, and they look like they're floating on the ocean, and I've got a couple of photos of that. And it's just stuff like that lives with you forever. And I would recommend Miyajima Island for anyone who's planning on going to Hiroshima. Actually, I think it's just a highlight of going there. I think it's just an incredible place to visit, to make you really appreciate life, and to make you think the world, it may be a big place, but it makes it a hell of a lot smaller when you're sat just truly enjoying yourself, truly being one with who you want to be. And it makes it, I talked about this in many podcasts. When you have trips like this, it makes you appreciate all the work you've ever done. Ever. Like all of the hard work you've ever done. Trips like this make you realize how much you appreciate your previous self for working so hard to get you to this point so that you can do these trips. Because everyone, when they're having a bad day, they wish they're somewhere else, or they wish they were having a break. But there's one thing I've learned, is that all the hard work makes all these trips worthwhile.
You're not where you want to be. You feel like you're supposed to be somewhere else. You said it. Well, say you could snap your fingers and be wherever you wanted to be. I bet you'd still feel this way. Not in the right place. The point is, you can't get so hung up on where you'd rather be that you forget how to make the most of where you are.
What are you telling me?
Take a break from worrying about what you can't control. Live a little.
And when I was on the bullet train, or when I was in Miyajima Island, or when I was in Osaka looking over the beautiful shrines, or the incredible castle ruins, or the beautiful lit up castles in both Hiroshima and Osaka, just at night, Osaka Castle just lit up, shining with white light. And then in Hiroshima, the beautiful castle shining with a pink, purple, yellow light. Like they're changing the light every day. And they've got amazing drinks machines everywhere you go. Beautiful public toilets. Beautifully well-kept parks. The place is so clean you could eat off the bloody floor. That's how much they care about their country. And it breaks my heart that England isn't looked after the same. And it breaks my heart as well that the taxes that are used in Japan are clearly used properly. They look after their parks. Kids running about, singing and having their own clubs in these parks at like 8 or 9 at night. It's just completely different. You think about your country, how you wouldn't allow your children out late at night, would you? In the West, because you'd have fear. But in Japan, it's fine. It's safe. The amount of little groups of kids going through these parks and enjoying themselves. It was wonderful. You heard flutes going off in the middle of the evening. It was 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And it was lit up. And people having a great time and dancing and singing. And it was like 24 degrees. It was not in the evening, but it was 18 degrees at night and then 24 in the day. And it was perfect. October. Incredible. And I came back to England and it was like 12 degrees. I was like, no! Why? And this is it, isn't it? You only appreciate something once it's gone. But in the moment, those 2 weeks, it wasn't like work where every day just speeds past. It lasted forever in our minds. Every day we were doing so much. Those 24 hours, they lasted for 24 hours. They felt like that time. Because every day we were doing something that we had purpose for, and we knew we were going to get it done. And we were either going somewhere purposefully to go get a drink of coffee, for instance, going to the Starbucks refinery where they made the coffee on site, and these beautiful pipes going up and down, and these massive coffee makers, and just this incredible, just place to be in. It was so clean, so amazing to see the food being made on site, the croissant.
Today, I wanted to eat a croissant. So I went to a place that sells croissant. And I bought a croissant. And I returned home with the croissant. And then I ate the croissant.
The pizza being made, the homemade pizza made in the massive ovens, like the Italians. And it's, going into the... we went to have sushi on a proper sushi belt in Tokyo, and we went and had proper curry, and went into Coco Curry, the chain as well, which is incredible. Like you just tap a screen and the food comes to you. It's just all of these little things. They're going to live with me forever. They're going to live with me for the rest of my life. I'm never going to forget it. It's going to be this Japan to me is up there. I think the only place that could probably knock it off its pedestal of top dog would be New Zealand for me, and Australia. Those two just kind of constantly live in my mind as places that have changed me as a person, and also will forever live with me as places to visit constantly. I think it's very difficult to compare those with any other countries. Europe doesn't even compare in terms of landscape and food and everything, all in the space of 2 weeks. How you can get so much done, I think. Doesn't even come close. Southeast Asia is amazing, but Japan is a first world country. You feel so safe there. You feel, even though it's expensive to get there, and once you've paid for your hotel, I actually think you can be really cheap. If you eat in 7-Eleven or you go and find the right non-touristy restaurants, you're going to be paying, really, I think for 2 people, for that meal we had in Hiroshima, it was 2,500 yen. That's like £12.50 for 2 people. And we had full proper meals. I had a beer and a Coke. Katie had a drink and then some water and a fizzy drink, I believe. No, she didn't have a fizzy drink. She just had water. But nonetheless, like, we were, going full hog on every time we went to out for food. And I can't believe it. That sort of quality of food for that price. To go out for a meal in England, it's £25 a pop for one person most of the time. So to think it's, half of that for 2 people, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? You might as well eat out every night in Japan, or find the right places. Because if you go into Shibuya, or if you go into Shinjuku and you try and eat out, you're going to be paying 5,000 yen because you're a tourist and you're walking into tourist traps. So watch out for those and be very careful, because they're looking to try and get your business. They're looking to get your money, and they ain't going to tell you about it, especially if you don't speak Japanese. So there is that. What else can I really, obviously go see the bowing deer in Nara. Just so much fun. Eating biscuits out of your hand. Going to see so many things in Osaka, the beautiful food, the local art, going to see the History Museum in Tokyo, going to see just so many little places that are unknown as well, and just exploring Tokyo is just one of those things that you've got to do, and just go and find a region. I think it was Yakashi, like the old Tokyo, the really old Tokyo, that was incredible to see, because it was just one of those places where you just could walk about, and we could have stayed there for hours, but we didn't have the time to do so. And this is the problem, is I could have spent a month in Japan and would have easily, I think if I spent a month in Japan, I could have got everything done, and it would have been a little bit more relaxed. But and we could have gone to other places. You know what, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret here. The last place I talk about before I end the podcast, Kamakura. Now, for those who are anime fans or just Japan fans, this one you'll always know. It is the place where the train goes by and the ocean is in the background. Kamakura is just outside of Tokyo. It's an hour away via train. And that hour train ride is 100% worth it. It is incredible. I have a photo of me in the background where Mount Fuji is in the background and the ocean is to the left. Just, I don't need to say anything more, because that's it. It's just insane. Mount Fuji, ocean, train going by, and then you see the ocean in the background, like, bam! That's what life's about right there. Doesn't get better than that. Things like that, they just, I'm just thinking about old Chris is going to be just like the happiest person, because he's just going to be able to think about stuff like that and think, damn good life. Damn good life. I can't end the podcast better than that, really. I think there's so much more I could go on about with the trip, and there's so many more things. I could probably make a part 2, but let's be honest, the likelihood of this being super popular or people wanting to know more is, I could go ranting on about each and every detail within each of it, but you know what I would say more than any of that? Go find out for yourself, because your trip will be much different than mine, and it will be just as exciting, just as beautiful, and it will feel like 2 weeks of a dream come true. This has been the Taylor's Tales podcast. This has been Chris's Corner. I've been your host, Chris Taylor. And as always, I hope to see you this time next week. We're back, baby!
We are back, baby. We are fucking back. We're back. Classic. We are back.